Okay, hello and welcome to our podcast. I'm here today with Ollie and Toby.
Hello.
Wow, so insane, guys.
Shit, we weren't meant to do that at the same time.
I'm
Damn it,
Toby.
guys. Right, we've got it. Right, okay, start over. You've ruined the whole
We're
thing.
we're starting over.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about King of Comedy today. Pretty exciting stuff. Just finished watching it myself.
Did you watch it again today?
Yeah, I finished it like an hour ago.
Oh, sweet.
Got a big multicolored notebook of notes written up here.
A
Oh,
massive
that is very
Pepe
exciting.
Sylvia board in front of you.
I've written the king of and then comedy in really big writing, and then I've written Jerry, just a round comedy, and lots of multicolored
Jerry.
different words.
Jerry is
Just
the
Jerry.
king of comedy,
Jerry's just written sort of all over the place.
as he should be.
Let's talk about Jerry quickly. Because I feel like I can't start talking about the king of comedy
without talking about the king of comedy.
without addressing the king of comedy, which
Yeah.
is Jerry.
I wish
Um,
I
we're
recorded,
talking-
I recorded some sound clips of just Robert De Niro shouting, and I really wanted to play them in this kind of moment, but
I want to know
unfortunately-
how many times Robert De Niro said Jerry.
Oh,
I want to know.
I hope there's a compilation or something on YouTube like there is for other stuff, because it's honestly, I think I recorded maybe 15 or 20 times in a single scene he said Jerry.
Epic. What do you guys? I personally think that it's his best performance. Like personally, what do you guys think about that?
Jerry Lewis or
No, not Jake. No, De Niro. Yeah, Jerry's best performance. I can't. Yeah, I mean De Niro.
interesting actually, because I watched Taxi Driver as sort of preparation for this.
Yeah, I finished it like a couple hours ago.
Yeah, and then watching King of Comedy again, it really kind of expected me to think, oh yeah, his performance in Taxi Driver was amazing as well, but it was, but God, it do hit different. The King of Comedy hit
It's
different.
insane, his King Comedy performance.
It's definitely the better performance out of the two, which makes me sad because much like De Niro's simping for Jerry, I'm out here simping Taxi Driver, so
Yeah,
I'm mildly upset by that.
I'm quite happy about it though, to be honest.
I just think he had space to do more in this, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because De Niro actually is the reason this film got made. Scorsese actually didn't want to make another feature film ever again.
Really?
He wanted to just make
This is-
documentaries.
So late 70s, Scorsese's out here saying to De Niro, "No thanks, mate. I think I'm done
Yeah.
with movies. I'm never going to do any more."
Yeah, no. After Raging Bull, he just decided that he wanted to make documentaries, and Robert De Niro had bought the rights to the King of Comedy script and basically forced Marty to make this film.
That's really cool.
So clearly, he wanted to simp for Jerry.
Well, I feel like it's not. No, I don't know. I don't know if it's the role he was born to play or anything, but he definitely I don't know. He definitely owned it. Like his timing, especially, I thought was
It's
very, very good.
something else. I remember when I was rewatching it just a bit ago, and it was like it's the second scene where they're all standing outside and the show's ended and Jerry's coming through to get in his car and the whole
Oh my god, it's
all that stuff
amazing.
happens and
It's
they're sitting in
insane.
the car and within about 2 or 3 sentences of their conversation starting, I was just like, wow. It's like De Niro's just wow. It's
He's just
like,
insane.
there's
It's
so
so
many other-
painful, and it's like
It is-
it's so
it is
painfully
quite
awkward. It's
painful.
amazing.
Is so desperate and uncomfortable and awkward that
And
I
it's
was
like-
just sort of clutching this pillow the entire time.
It's and the buddy, the bit when he gets out of the car and he just can't quite like let go of Big
Oh,
Jerry,
God, it's so
and he just can't let him leave.
And it's like, Jerry, you're a
You're a prince, Jerry.
You're
Yeah.
a prince, Jerry. Oh god, that was the finale of my recordings. Was Jerry, you're a prince. And
Jerry, you're a prince.
Jerry! 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 You're a prince!
Yeah.
Jerry,
It's
I
amazing.
mean,
Oh, and oh god, and the bit when he's having a conversation with himself, that is like out of this world De Niro
Which
type
part?
stuff.
When he's
When he's
like they're pretending that he's at dinner and
he's at dinner,
like,
yeah.
"Oh."
And
Yes.
also, interesting thing about that, actually, I don't know if you guys picked it up, but you know, when he's when he's being Jerry, like Jerry in that scene is like he's wearing like De Niro's clothes under his jacket. Well, not
Yeah,
exactly,
he's got
but
the same tie
he's got the
on.
same tie, and he's got like he's wearing like a blue shirt and like a
Yeah.
blue like kind of vest or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I guess because De Niro wears his outfit is literally exactly mirrored on Jerry's outfit.
Yeah,
But it's like Jerry's is like it's like check, whereas De Niro's is like striped. And
yeah, it's like
it was
pinstripes.
it was almost exactly the same, but there's that like one minor difference.
Yeah.
So was anyone looking at De Niro's outfit and just thinking the entire time that all he needed was Joker face paint?
Yeah.
It is a bit clown-esque,
Let's
but
It's very clowny.
I'm not ready to start talking about Joker yet.
yeah,
It's
let's
like
leave,
Saving
let's
Joker
leave
for
that.
really
later.
inside me,
So-
full of hatred.
Yeah, we need to wait till we're a bit more angry.
His outfit reminded me of Pee Wee Herman, to be honest, just a little bit. It's like I could imagine him going around a unicycle.
I love this white shoes. His white shoes tops it off. I thought he was wearing bloody Air Force Ones for a second, and I was like, "Come on, the old De Niro."
Yeah,
He's amazing.
So-
He's-
back on about like De Niro's performance. I do think that because it's kind of that same scene, I kind of noticed this that like there's so many other great elements in this film that all work together to make like a really great film. The scene's great, the production design is great, the writing is great, but it's like everything feels like, to me anyway, kind of like 8 out of 10, and then it's like De Niro's performance is just a straight 10, and it's like I can't help but just be like see kind of everything else in the film. It's not lesser, but like it's just De Niro's performance just like blew.
it's
blows it
definitely
out
the
the
best
park.
part of the film,
best
but
part
I
of the
wouldn't
film.
say everything else is an 8. Like I don't know. It's just like, the timing is ridiculous. I think that's like one reason I love it so much, and it's actually like funny. Like there are bits that you actually like proper chuckle at.
Oh no,
And-
I think that like although De Niro's character is very desperate and other things,
Quite dark.
but like he like a lot of the times he's legitimately funny and charismatic, and I think that's what's like.
So
I
one
like-
bit that actually got me, like this proper ha. You know when he's sitting down in between the cardboard cutouts of Jerry and
And
Mrs. Jerry.
Lucille too from Arrested Development, yeah.
Yeah, when he says hi to Jerry and he goes, "Oh, don't get up," I actually bloody burst out laughing. It wasn't even that funny, but I couldn't help it.
And then he like pretends that Jerry's made some absolute zinger and he's just absolutely losing his shit at just like
Yeah.
nothing. And it's like,
Yeah.
and I feel like because it seems like even though in this scene neither of obviously the two cardboard cutouts aren't talking, but most of the time he's like creating lines for somebody.
Well, There's a very interesting like dynamic of him kind of drifting in and out of his what he wants to happen and what is actually happening. It's like
'Cause it's like
there's almost bits that are like
I do
like,
love that
dreamy,
first
like-
cut. The first cut into Robert De Niro being alone, having the conversation in his head was great. I knew the cut was coming, but when it happened, I was very happy that then the rest of the film started taking on these like fantasy conversations.
yeah, it's like
Because
well,
I
I
feel
saw
like-
your thing, Toby, the big David Lynch joke.
Oh yeah.
what's this?
I think my Letterboxd review was like I really like David Lynch's film The King of Comedy or something,
Yeah.
because there were so many points when I was watching it when I was just thinking there were scenes that were like so surrealist they might as well have been a David Lynch film.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
And
there's
then-
that bit, you know, when it's another one of his like fantasy moments, and it's when he's talking to Jerry about the tape, and there's like a shot of De Niro in like that chair from above, but like the chair is like, it almost looks like it's like not a real, it's like too big. He looks very small in the chair.
Oh yeah, but that's big. Like I've got all this stuff about.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
he
we can.
basically, he basically is like he acts like a child, and like
He's
Yeah.
sitting there
Yeah,
when he's
definitely.
recording his like audition tape. So he's drinking milk.
I was
About-
just about to
and
say that
talks
he was
about,
drinking
like,
milk.
Oh, I used to drink milk with my mum after school in his like 20s.
Mom.
But
Yeah.
he had pasteurized, and hers was, I don't know, some American phrase about alcohol.
Yeah.
But yeah, I noticed that.
Robert De
it-
Niro shouting "Mum."
Before we go any further, this whole time we have called De Niro's character De Niro, and for anyone who hasn't watched this film, the character's name is actually Rupert Pupkin, and I feel like that
Yes.
has to be addressed because it's actually a great name, and I don't
It is
want
great,
us
yeah.
to not say this.
Ru-
And I love that.
Yes.
And throughout the whole film, every character that says his name differently. And it's like,
Yeah.
sometimes
But he
it's
knows
like-
it as well, which
it's
is
like,
great.
It's like Mr. Pubnick, Mr. Pumpkin, obviously, but any sort of a range of letters. I love that, like, everyone doesn't just call him Pumpkin, that people would just spout crap.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought his name was Richard Pumpkin for
Richard.
a solid 30 to 40 minutes.
Let's get Richard.
I
for
was
him.
just sat there like my man Pumpkin's out here being a simp and that. And then when he started saying my name's Richard Pupkin, I was having a crisis.
Rupert Pupkin.
Yes, it's not Richard.
Rupert Pumpkin.
Imagine that happened. He was like, "Oh, it's often mispronounced," and someone just calls him Big Richard.
Big
So-
Richard.
Yeah.
Right, so
What were we just talking about before that?
I don't know.
the meaty
We've
stuff.
gone on to we've sprayed a lot over.
Oh,
we talked
I
about
feel like-
Zero's performance and stuff, I guess, before.
Or going back to what he's wearing, actually, just a little saying.
Yeah, let's break down Pumpkin a bit more.
Well, one thing I noticed that I didn't notice the first time. You know when there's a bit where he's like waiting for Jerry to come out. Oh, and also let's acknowledge that amazing joke when they're waiting for him and they're like, "Oh, is that him?" And she's like, "No, it looks too much like him."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool. I like
that bit.
impersonators coming out, and yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, but yeah, the bit where Jerry walks out onto the street and the first person he interacts with, like a fan, is literally dressed exactly like De Niro.
Is he?
And like he's got a mustache and everything. It's almost like there are hundreds of Ruperts around the city just knocking about. He's like,
Oh yeah.
it's
like,
yeah.
great.
Like going
Well-
back to, on that point, the second scene. I love how we throw in straight into the talk show, and then the second scene is them all standing outside, and Rupert, like, he's coming through the crowd, and there's all of these like mega fans there, and
Yeah.
you're wondering for a second, like, what his place is there, because he looks relatively different. He's dressed different to most people there.
It's quite out of
Yeah.
place.
But then you quickly notice, like, through like what he says to people and stuff, that it's like actually he knows these people very well. He is one of these people, and he clearly spends a lot of time here. And although he like looks this way, he actually is like these others.
Yeah, it's interesting though because
I wrote down the Langer boys, by the way, for Jerry Langford's fans. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah,
Good point.
yeah, the Langer boys. Well, De Niro apparently actually went out and met his own stalkers in preparation for the film, right?
That's so cool.
He said that he went and met one of his longtime stalkers and basically took them to dinner. And the guy was like obsessed with the fact that his mum wanted to say hi. That was like the main thing that De Niro got out of meeting his like big long-time stalker, was that the guy wanted to tell De Niro that his mum said hi.
And that's where
That's
mum
great.
came from.
And that's clearly where the mum came from.
Yeah.
So
Well-
shout out to De Niro's long-time stalker,
And shout out to De Niro's mum as well.
Yeah.
and shout out to De Niro's mum.
Yes, De Niro's mum. Give me a ring.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But-
it's like
There's that amazing bit as well. You know when Jerry's walking down the street and there's that woman on the phone, and then he doesn't say hi to her son, and she goes, "You get cancer. You could."
I've written down the exact quote somewhere, because watching it again today, I literally was almost in tears.
hit me.
She says you should only get cancer. Only get cancer, very specifically.
That's a
No-
very
no other
targeted.
viruses, diseases, accidents, nothing else, just cancer.
Just that. Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna look at my notes. Actually,
Well, it feeds into the whole thing because the main thing I came away from the King of Comedy with was this idea of celebrity fetishization and
How
this
dangerous.
vicariously living through celebrities,
Yeah.
right? Because the film finished and the first thing I thought about was all of the Kylie Jenner stands. Right? That was like immediately the first thing that came to mind. And in like the day and a half since I've watched it, it's actually been crazy how relevant this film is to right now.
Yeah, it seems like it's way more relevant now than it was
Even
then.
though it's
Yeah.
about a talk show, it's more relevant now than it was then, and that's nuts.
wait, hold on. I actually missed a lot of what you said, Toby. If I'm honest, it kept on cutting out, but we can just move past this one.
Oh, he was talking about like the relevance of like how dangerous it is to be obsessed with celebrities when, and like how relevant that is today compared to previously.
Oh,
When
sure.
the film
Okay.
came out.
Yeah.
Like then it's so prevalent today. It's like everyone is
It's-
obsessed with somebody basically.
It's dangerous.
And I guess it's weird seeing it put as a problem here when it feels like there's like millions of these people now.
Yeah.
I think that's what made it feel so dark for me was the fact that when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about the fact that I have, you know, like not obsessed, but like I've vicariously lived things through celebrities in a way for
Yeah.
quite a lot of my life. And I feel like a lot of people with technology are doing that nowadays. And it was kind of like it made King of Comedy quite stark for me and it made it quite invasive and I felt quite uncomfortable about the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
especially as I would say now, it's like it's probably hard. Like later on in the film, Big Rupert he turns up at Jerry's like summer house, like totally uninvited, and he like found the address very easily. Turned up, there's no one there. I feel like it's like it's now more you would not be able to do what he did in that film in the modern day, in like where these people would live. Like, but you could do it.
Oh,
then.
definitely.
I
Yeah.
feel like it's like
Yeah.
there's millions more of them now, but it's more difficult to do that. So I feel like only the real crazies today.
But I feel like people are still doing these things. I mean, like, look at Kim Kardashian posting the photo to Instagram and then 2 hours later, a hotel room being robbed.
Yeah,
That's just a bunch
Like,
of Ruperts.
and I
No.
see a lot with like YouTubers and stuff where they're
People just show
less
up to their
popular.
houses.
People just show up to the house all the time,
Yeah.
and they
Or
don't.
like
And
those-
the problem is they don't even think it's a problem. They're not like,
yeah.
oh yeah, I'm really stalking this person. It's like they turn up, they're shouting, they expect them to come out and
Yeah.
hey,
Well, it's like
hi, come in and have dinner with me. Like
well,
not
that's
It's-
my
yeah.
thing. Like, well, the King comedy does that so well, doesn't it? It's like very delusional, and it's not even that he just idolizes Jerry. It's like he he's such a like a failure that he like needs to be Jerry rather
Yeah.
than wanting to meet him or be friends with him. But then it's interesting because you know I actually forget her name. You know the girl character.
which one?
Marsha.
Oh,
Marsha, it's like her motives are like completely different. Like she's like from like a very wealthy family and like isn't so much of like a failure from like a socio-economic standpoint, but she is like she is obsessed with Jerry because she's like very obviously I don't know how to put it, like not lonely, but like I don't know. Do you know?
It
Can
is
someone,
somewhat,
else? Yeah.
Just I'm not so. I've got a somewhat theory about like her apartment, his where De Niro lives. Like I was watching it today, and it's like if I don't know, the scenes where he's sat in his basement, where he's in the basement and his mum's shouting, right, and he's recording these things, and it's like obviously his mum's dead, has been dead for 10 years, so his mum's not actually shouting at him. So it's like that means that one thing in that scene is clearly a fantasy. So why not more of it? Like, why be just stop there? It's like if you actually look at when he describes where he lives, he says, "I live in a hovel." But when you actually look at this basement or whatever he's living in, it's like apparently this ridiculously expansive place with like this set of like for a talk show and all of these tapes and this expensive recording equipment, and then that part where he's like rehearsing in front of that wall of
people,
like an audience, and they're like laughing, and it's weird because it kind of feels like they're laughing at him. It doesn't feel like they're laughing at his jokes.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's like if you look at the walls and stuff in there, clearly it's meant to still be his basement because like the walls are the same, but it's like this is this huge expansive space that's come out of nowhere, and it's like, where is this really? And I don't think that that's real at all, potentially.
It could also be his little pad where he wants to keep Jerry. Could be his Jerry holding pad. Well, you know, he's got to have a basement fully equipped to accommodate
his
Jerry.
Parents is definitely very interesting. Like that, I think. Wait, hold on. I think people. It keeps on cutting out. Hold on.
No, I didn't say anything for like 5 seconds. Then there was.
I think before that it was
it
was a bit choppy.
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's okay now.
I think it's you because Toby's coming through fine. You're coming through fine for me.
Oh yeah, it's definitely just me. But like, yeah.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, what makes it so sure that her apartment is real as well? Because when they come out of the apartment block and you look at the building that she's come out of, it doesn't look like an apartment like that. It doesn't look like that apartment could be in that building.
Yeah.
And it makes me think that potentially her apartment's not real either.
This is interesting because when I was watching Taxi Driver last night, I suddenly realised that actually potentially the majority of the film isn't real.
Yeah.
I know that everyone talked about the ending obviously being a fantasy.
Yeah.
But when I was watching it yesterday, I started thinking about the fact that actually you never see him. Violent scenes happen and then he's just in his apartment. It just always cuts to him in his apartment, even after when he tries to assassinate Palpatine. It's like he just immediately is back in his apartment and he's constantly taking amphetamines and drinking.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The reality of Taxi Driver is most of it is probably in his head. And then I was thinking about King of Comedy.
Oh, he has got a lot of bad ideas in his head, remember?
Yeah. And it feels the same way. It's like you can't really put an objective pin on.
They're very similar characters, I think. Rupert Pumpkin and Travis Bickle. They're like
incredibly similar.
Yeah.
Bickle. Is his real name
Travis Bickle?
He's Travis Bickle, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Pickle.
Bickle.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Travis Pickle. I was gonna say, what the fuck is Scorsese and his name and his character?
Also, going on to he's hungry.
He's got snacking before he gets right in for the day.
Rupert Pumpkin.
Going on to Taxi Driver quickly though, with that idea of it not perhaps being real, it's interesting. I noticed on this watch that in the moments that he is like acting on his the violent part, or the peak of the third act when he's doing his bits, he's going around killing people. His jacket is his war jacket. It like doesn't have his name on the back, and like in every other scene when he's wearing that jacket, his name is on the back.
Oh yeah,
that's really interesting. Yeah.
Wow. Oh.
But yeah,
I thought this is such a tiny tidbit, but bloody Travis definitely could have killed Palpatine if he wasn't so keen to bloody shoot Palpatine. He's walking up like 20 meters away, pulling out his huge magnum.
Maybe if he didn't have a gun that big, he wouldn't have any problems.
It's like he could have taken him out easy. Right, sorry, continue.
It's like an elephant hunting pistol.
Yeah,
you could have
I know. So you see from a mile away. Yeah.
And everything would have been fine. But it wasn't real.
It wasn't real anyway.
They're both very uncomfortable films.
Real.
Oh yeah, can we I've lost it. No, someone else carry on.
Boys, stop joking around about the magnums. Get on to serious business.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how well written the dialogue was.
In King of Comedy.
How, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At every point, I could see how Rupert was like inferring what he was clearly thinking. It's like the dialogue was written so well that you could tell that these people were politely telling him to get lost, but also you could see how he was getting so caught up in it. It was actually nuts. It was like some of the characters were talking. And I was just thinking, like, stop saying this. He's there like an eager puppy, like.
Well, that's it though, isn't it? It's like he's so like thirsty. He can't even figure out that he's like completely overstepping every social boundary there is.
He's so thirsty for Jerry the Thought.
It's like it's like, you know, the bit where Jerry's all tied up and he's like talking to Jerry, but then he's having like a side conversation with Martha.
Yes.
And he can't quite figure out what he wants, and she's almost telling him what to do. But he's like, it's almost like a different thing entirely, because he's like stepping out of the conversation that he wants to have with Jerry into this like almost like interruption into how he wants things to go.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know.
He already let her put a red jumper on him for 20 minutes, and in his eyes,
which looked great, by the way.
Oh, can I? Am I the only person who's confused about the arms being detached? Is that just a thing?
Yeah, she hadn't finished it. She
hasn't finished it.
Okay. I was like, take those arms off. That's going to be a mental sweater vest.
Yeah.
I was like, keep the arms off.
The sweater vest would actually look great.
Why were the arms detached?
Well, it wasn't
because it wasn't finished. Yeah, it wasn't finished.
Okay, because I thought it might have been like a tailoring thing. Maybe you leave the arms detached on a sweater until they've tried it on, and then you're like, yeah, these arms are great. Let's attach.
Yeah, modular sweat vest.
Modular sweat vest.
Oh, also, actually, speaking of dialogue and acting and stuff, like considering De Niro is a massive legend actor, and this is arguably one of his best performances, let's acknowledge that Big Martha was like holding her own like completely, like again like in the same room as him. It was like her performance is mental as well.
Yeah, and I feel like you don't really see too much of it until she's alone with Jerry, and there's
the
whole sequence is going on. That sequence is just like arguably. It's weird. It's like at the same time you're seeing Rupert, like he's doing the show and he's going in and there's all that happening, which is what he's wanted the whole time. But then this other scene is going on at the same time and it's being intercut, and I'm almost more interested in this scene with her because it's so good.
It also looks great.
It was so deeply uncomfortable. She made me so uncomfortable. I think like with Rupert, I felt so uncomfortable because of how desperate his presence on screen is. But like he's got a mustache and he looks kind of friendly.
Yeah.
Whereas
well, he's incredibly friendly.
So like intense.
Yeah, she's a different box of frogs. It's
I did actually, when I was watching it this time, I was like, wait a minute. Is Rita and Marsha the same person? Because they're never in a scene together, and he's like imagining that they're different people. And then I looked at it and it was like, no, it couldn't be that. But for a bit, I was like, I've broken the Matrix.
It is her in Taxi Driver in the porn theater. It is the same actor.
Oh, okay.
As Rita.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I thought it wasn't, but it was.
It did look like her, yeah.
Oh. Well, there you go.
Yeah, when he first goes into the cinema and he's like proper noncing on that woman.
He tries to hit on the porno theater admittance lady, and she threatens to call Mr. Manager.
Yeah, and he wants some gum gums.
Oh yeah, it is the same. It is the same person.
Yeah.
I noticed that as well, but I've only just clocked onto what we're actually talking about. What I had something to say about the cinema in Taxi Driver. That's okay.
You wanted to know where it was.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
You wanted to
know where the address? Are you gonna go down there now?
I can't remember. Maybe I see. I didn't make any notes for Taxi Driver because I didn't think it would come up as frequently.
Well, I
But
just feel like it's so
It's quite relevant.
it's so in the same. Okay, so the thing that I've decided over the past 2 days is that literally Scorsese's entire filmography that isn't Taxi Driver and King of Comedy can do one because that period of Taxi Driver and King of Comedy is just insane. That like look into the loner mind is just the best bit.
we also need
about
to acknowledge massive legend Paul Schrader though. He was definitely the like the brains behind Taxi Driver. Yeah, because he's not the king of comedy, but he's the king of depression. that's what he is.
Everyone
Like
strives
First
to get
Reformed
that
and
role in life.
Mishima.
Paul Schrader does know how to write a good depressed protagonist,
Yeah,
basically.
and also maybe the best Scorsese cameo as well.
Which
And
one,
King of-
Taxi Driver or King of Comedy? Definitely
Well,
Taxi Driver.
Well,
right?
they're both great, but the bit in King of Comedy when the person's like, "You're the director, can you help me?" and he's like, "No."
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wait. Because when I was just on Google when I was looking things up for this film earlier, I saw Scorsese was the TV director, is what he's listed
Yeah.
over on IMDb.
Yeah.
So when does he actually come up? Because I honestly
yes.
didn't clock him in this second.
Oh,
scene.
it's when he's when Rupert is about to go on stage and he kind of strolls into the set and no one really knows what's about to happen,
Yeah.
and does he talk to him? Does Rupert talk
No,
to
he, like-
Ryan?
Wait. Do you mean right at the end?
And then no. This is like when he first turns up to the studio
It's
set.
the guy that takes the piss out of him, and he's like, "Oh yeah,
No, not that guy.
Thrones
Yeah.
out there."
Yeah, and then he walks off, and then the shot holds on Marty doing Marty things.
Oh, okay. I've moved on to the next shot. Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've just forgotten about that one.
Yeah, fair.
It's nowhere near as good as the Taxi Driver one because he looks
cameo.
sexy in the Taxi Driver one.
He's terrifying in the Taxi Driver, like actually terrifying.
Oh well, yeah. Well, when he's in the cab, it's quite intense.
Yeah.
But when he's like sat outside Palpatine's Sith office, it's like he looks quite epic.
Yeah. Well, going back to going back to the darkness of King Comedy, I think the most like the bit where it gets dark for me is his live performance on TV. It's
Yeah.
like so sad, and it's
so
because
horrible.
all of his like anguish of like why he wants to be like someone. Oh, that's something actually which I thought was interesting. So the tagline for Taxi Driver is like in every place, like someone wants to be a someone or something. Yeah. I thought that would be much more fitting for this film, but I don't know. But
What was
yeah,
the
it's like
tagline for this?
let me Google it.
It's something like in every place there's someone who wants to be a somebody or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
but I thought that would work better with the King of Comedy.
It
But
would work better with the King of Comedy.
but yeah, it's like in that moment, it's like all because we never really know about his act until then, and his act is just him like trying to process his like horrific childhood of like torment and like not being appreciated.
Because when he sat in the fantasy, he sat in Jerry's office and they're talking about his tape, and Jerry's basically saying, "How do you do it?" And he's like sat with his like legs crossed like a kid and his hands like in his lap.
He's very
legs
small
aren't
in that
crossed,
chair.
it's like
I look at the things in my life that are sad and I turn it into jokes. And then when you hear that monologue at the end, that like opening speech when he comes on stage, it's just pure depression piling out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's actually like he got like abused by his dad, and like he never had a proper relationship with his mum, and he always just get picked on by other kids. But like I think where he obviously got laughed at as a child, that's where his like need for like
to be the funny man.
affection comes from.
Yeah.
But I got the official like tagline for Taxi Driver is on every street in every city there's a nobody who dreams of being a somebody, but that's the king of comedy, really.
And what's
It's
So,
the
literally
king of
king of
comedy?
comedy.
they probably just used it, and they're like, "Fuck, we can't use that again." So
When he arrives and he's like, "The king is here,"
yeah,
Oh yeah.
I was
He
like,
he describes himself as Mr. King as well.
"Mr. King." It was like, what is this? It's like it's such a power. It's like he's so desperate for the power of fame. I think that it's like it just bleeds into everything he says and creates.
well, it's like he gave that girl his own autograph. It's like
Oh yeah,
It's
that's actually ridiculous when he
that
does
is
that.
not a good Tinder date.
Oh my
yeah,
God,
I know.
can we talk
Imagine
about that?
setting up a Tinder date
Can we
with
please
your
talk about that date because of
Yes.
the guy in the background who's reacting to the whole conversation that they're having, and he's like
Yeah.
he's quite in like in the front of the frame kind of. You can clearly see what he's saying. And when I was watching it, it actually kind of felt like he was emoting what she was thinking in her head.
Yeah,
Is what I thought today, because he like as his story gets more ridiculous, he starts to like act out, like he's like putting his hands up in the air, like wow, like that's amazing, and he's like saying what he's saying, and then the second it gets to a point where it's like she's totally done with him, and it's clear in her face that she's like lost interest, like he just stands up and walks away.
Yeah.
As soon as a frown comes on her face, he stands up and leaves. I thought that
Yeah.
was quite interesting.
I noticed
Yeah.
that there was. I'm pretty sure there's always at least one person in the background, like simping over Rupert in all of those fantasy scenes.
Well, there's
I think in the when they're having dinner, there's the person like drawing them, and then at the
and
date
girl that comes for his autograph.
background, and yeah,
It's almost the opposite of, it's like that was actually his reality, and in the fantasy somebody comes and like loves him and creates something for him or appreciates
Yeah.
him, whereas in his actual reality it's somebody taking the piss out of him.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like
The other person in the restaurant is taking the piss out of every word he
Yeah.
says.
Yeah, but it's like he quite obviously dislikes himself as a person as well. I think that's why whenever he like he's in a situation where he can imagine hit someone else in his shoes, it's like they're even like hard, like not harder to watch than him, but it's like he can't even acknowledge what he's like as a person when he's like talking to himself.
Yeah.
And
it's so you can he's so insecure. It's almost like the suit he wears is like a suit of armor. It's like this comical suit, and with his mustache. I'm sorry, people with mustaches, but it's like there's something about it that makes
Yeah.
it feel like he's adopting this clownish persona
yeah.
in order to protect himself from people taking the piss out.
Clownish
Oh,
persona, clownish
going-
persona, is it?
No, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet,
Hold
not
on,
yet,
hold
not
on.
yet.
Going
But
back to Phillips, right, go on.
going back to what you said about him, like obviously being a child, like a child almost,
Yeah.
like drinking the milk and everything. Have you the only time we ever see him use his briefcase is to get like a sandwich out, which I thought was just like he's carrying around a big lunchbox basically, which I thought was great.
It's a
Amazing,
lunchbox.
yeah, you're right. He never gets
Yeah,
anything else out.
Yeah, it's great. It's just he is just a little boy.
Yeah. I think the most troubling scene, I think the scene where I sort of like started thinking about those things was the wedding scene. I feel
Yeah.
like the wedding
Oh
scene
yeah,
is definitely the worst like look into his head. You've got Jerry, who's this man he doesn't know, as his best man.
well there's a bit where he
He's
like there's a moment where he should look at his wife, but before he looks at his wife, he turns around and looks at Jerry.
yeah.
It's
And-
really it's great.
The girl he's marrying is someone he barely knows, but is just
Yeah.
trying to impress her. And then the guy that's marrying them, the priest, is actually just his old high school teacher who's apologizing for the way that everyone treated him when he's a kid.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
like
crazy that the what he actually says in that scene. It like
Yeah.
what he's
well,
like,
you're right, I'm wrong.
yeah, it's
that
like it's
thing.
so apparent. There's no like nuance to what he says. It's like everyone in the world has wronged you, and I'm
Yeah.
literally apologizing for everything that anyone has ever done for you in your life.
Yeah, But that's almost like
done for Arthur Fleck, and then he wouldn't have shot anyone.
yeah. But isn't that almost that's a very like innocent way of wanting forgiveness, isn't it? It's like it's almost like a very childlike way of wanting an apology. Just you're right, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone loves you.
It
This
feels
is
like he's constantly living, trying to like fix his past. Like he's not living in the now or planning for the
definitely.
future. He's constantly just trying to compensate for the fact that he was a failure.
Yeah, exactly. Completely. He like his whole life is one big failure.
One big
And one thing going back even further to something you said earlier, you know, when we were saying about how he like potentially doesn't even live where we think he lives, sort of with his mum and all this kind of stuff. You know, when he's walking down the street with Martha, he says like, "Oh, what about all the things I've done for you that like money can't buy?" He says like, "Oh, I like one time I couldn't even pay my rent or whatever." But so well, I imagine that if he was living with his mum and kind of she treats him like a child, and he wouldn't be paying rent. So that's like another big reason that he obviously doesn't live with his mum.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. On the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, he says in his act that she died 9 years ago, but did she really? And then it's like now I'm like, yeah
Maybe
he's
like
dead.
Yeah.
It's either just the fact that he thinks she stopped loving him 9 years ago, or the more probable reality, which is she's dead.
Yeah. Or it's just a big funny joke.
It was a Christmas joke.
Yeah.
That when they're in the office and Jerry's like, he really wants to know how he does it and all this, and when you said he was like cross-legged or whatever, it's weird. The chair is this like,
it's like a therapist chair.
It's a weird thing, and he's almost totally horizontal.
Yeah,
he's like his butt is like in this weird egg chair or something, and then he's like almost lying down on the floor, and the camera is so high.
The chair is definitely too like it's not a normal chair.
It's so apparent that they're trying to make him seem small and like vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you know, when he's waiting on that next to that pillar, and he's looking up at the looking up at the sky.
Yeah.
I feel that's a very kid thing to do.
Oh yeah, he starts and even though he like makes quite an adult conversation about the cork and like, the material of the ceiling.
Oh, when he gets cut off there, it's like someone interrupts him. It's actually amazing. It's actually
like
so good.
Something that like a little 12-year-old who thought he was an intellectual would say to some woman. He'd be like, he starts chatting shit about cork because he's read something about cork and he thinks it makes him sound like an adult. That's kind of what it felt like to me.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's that great bit, you know, when he finally walks into the office space down that like blue corridor.
Yeah.
Like the camera in that moment is so like it's so weird. It's like, well, he's obviously going somewhere that he's not meant to go, and it's like it's somewhere that it's like, I don't know, it's almost like where the adult world that he isn't like ready to go in. I don't know.
And I love that the entrance to the offices almost like this grand like sci-fi entrance. It's like this crazy like blue, like low blue light, and it's really dark, and you it's quite like shiny. I think the entrance, I seem to remember. And then it's like when you actually get to the offices, they're really boring offices.
Yeah.
It's like he has this picture of what is going to be through there. And then what the reality is like these crappy offices.
Yeah, exactly.
I found that there was way more of that like quite like not on the nose but quite intense like imagery in this compared to like all of Scorsese's other work that I've seen. This and Taxi Driver really stand out to me as like I said earlier, there were moments in this film, especially when it's the camera's pulling away from him in front of that black and white crowd.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite shot in the entire film, I think.
Yeah, and it's like it's pulling away, and at first it's like the amazement at the size of the crowd, and then when the crowd like caps and it starts pulling away down the hallway, and it's just getting like smaller and smaller and smaller, and he's just like blending into the crowd.
Yeah, you just get more and more lonely.
It's like the imagery that's being used is quite intense compared to like the subtlety of the rest of Scorsese's work.
Yeah,
And at times, especially that scene, it really feels like quite surrealist.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
agree with
wild
that,
bits.
especially on that scene. That's one scene that I feel like that's one scene I can really put in my head as like very strongly surrealist. Like that's one scene where there's no doubt in my mind that this scene isn't really happening, but it's like it's his imagination.
It's just like it's just like images presenting ideas, basically.
Yeah.
There's a great bit as well when Martha's chasing Jerry across the road, and the camera does like an almost like real footage type like documentary vibe.
But I think they I don't know how you guys, I haven't really researched into how they actually shot it in New York and stuff, but it felt like to me they had in every time they were doing these long walking shots down the streets, they would have about maybe 6 paid extras, it felt like, and, that would follow them, but there were also, it felt like, a lot of people in the street that had no idea what was going on, because a lot of the time I'm looking at people in the background and it's like some of them are looking at the camera and some of them are looking at like De Niro and Marsha, like, and they're shouting at each other. And
I noticed
that. It feels like genuinely like there's a few people sprinkled in, like giving, like looking always at their argument, and then you kind of don't notice the people looking at the camera at all. But I think to me, it feels like they really just went for it and walked down a street in New York and shot it. That's how I see that they did it. But I don't know what the actual reality was.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And there's because in a lot of scenes there's so many people on the streets. I can't imagine.
It's like, I feel like it's hard to kind of get that kind of permission in New York City. Just to block off that kind of radius for like such a short.
It was a pretty small film for Scorsese. 100%.
Yeah, the budget feels very small as well.
Yeah,
because it was $19 million.
But it doesn't feel expensive either.
Yeah, and it only made $2.5 million.
Really?
At the box office.
So I wish it was more appreciated.
It was a commercial, genuinely like a huge commercial flop.
I know this is bad, but it's genuinely before Joker had come out, I'd never heard of it. And I only heard of it because everyone kept saying that the Joker was basically the king of comedy.
Yeah.
The Taxi
Literally, the artwork for King of Comedy has Rupert Pumpkin on a fucking Joker card.
Yeah.
Like, I saw that, and it says Joker next to his name, and I was like, I'm so upset.
Well, I saw someone remade the artwork for Joker. They just literally ripped off. Like, I think it was intentional, but they just ripped off the King of Comedy poster.
Yeah.
Right,
before we get on to
our hatred for Joker.
The hatred for the Joker. I feel like I'd like to talk about a bit in depth about some of the scenes later on in the film. I feel like we talked quite in depth about some scenes early on.
I'd like to talk.
We've
about
kind of been jumping back and forth a little bit.
Jumping a lot, but I feel like we've missed quite a lot in the
That's alright.
middle to the middle of like the third act.
Yeah.
It's like I want to talk about the housekeeper scene and how funny the housekeeper is.
Oh, the bit when he's like, "You done good, Mr. Langford."
Yeah, you done good, Mr. Langford.
And he's like, I'm about to have a heart attack.
It's
or
when
whatever
he's on
he
the
said.
phone and he's like, and he's just, it's so funny. Oh.
What does he say? He's like, there's someone. What does he say?
He's like they want to stay the whole weekend. He's like, I'm
scared,
Mr. Langford.
He's like,
scared.
yeah, and he's like, he knows everything. He knows you're playing golf. I don't know how he knows.
And yeah, he looks. Did you notice that he looks exactly like the Nazi doctor from Raiders of the Lost Ark?
I did not.
The one in the big leather jacket with the top hat, the one that melts in the first.
Isn't he like a bold man?
He's got like a.
I swear he's a bold white man.
No.
And this housekeeper that you're comparing him to is like an old Japanese doctor.
Yeah.
swear.
Yeah, I remember Indiana Jones man being not Oriental.
Not
he's
not
Japanese.
Japanese.
Because he's like they're pally with the Nazis. The Japs are on the Nazi side. That's why.
I guess
No,
so, I
he's
guess so.
definitely not.
Isn't he the inspector or something?
Oh, another thing actually. I could kind of going away from this whole
dear,
fiasco.
Oh dear,
But,
everyone, he's very white. I've just found out.
Yeah,
Very
he's
right.
like a bold white man.
Apologies.
He's not even bold.
Apologies if I've offended anyone.
Yeah, apologies to all the bald and Japanese
to
men
all Japanese
watching.
people and bald white
Yeah.
men. I'm really
And
sorry.
Martin
They are
Scorsese.
easily confused.
Okay, but all right, I feel bad now. I feel like I felt it was very funny, and now I feel bad. I've
He
also
was very
written down,
funny.
a few lines between Rupert and Jerry. I just want to read out towards the end of the scene.
But when they're having
When
like
they're-
the debate about like, what's happening at his house.
Yeah, and
Yeah, okay.
Rupert says, "I'm sorry, Jerry. I just made a mistake." And Jerry says, "So did Hitler." And I still don't think I quite understand what the
I
hell
think-
Jerry's talking about.
I do what I honestly just think that it's just Martin just not being the biggest like the writer.
Martin,
They're just
you're
not.
being
I
the
just,
biggest Hitler fan.
no. I just think it's them not being like the biggest comedy genius in the world. Because there are like
Right.
it's a very funny film, but there are a few moments that are a bit like it's like I could have done without that. When Marsha throws the glass behind her and there's like a cat. It's like that's very like
Yeah,
I didn't even
not
notice
funny.
that.
Yeah.
But
It's like I think the Hitler comment is just like it just sort of cuts through. I think the reason is because it just sort of like cuts through. It feels
Yeah.
so out
It's-
of place when
it's
you hear
basically-
it. Like, you sort of do a double take.
Because Rupert is just not listening to anything that he's saying or
Yeah.
picking up on any of the social cues he's giving.
well, I was gonna say even though it's something we've kind of established a lot of him not being able to kind of like realize what's appropriate and what's like actually being said, but like not being able to like leave people after they've left him. In this bit, it's like he completely blurs the line of what he actually thinks is happening, but in a sense that he almost like pretends that it's like a gag, it's like a joke, but not just for his well, not his girlfriend, but
Reese's
Rita.
sake.
Yeah, it's not just for her sake, but like for his sake as well. It's like he he's like completely lost it at this point, and he genuinely can't like kind of acknowledge the fact that they're not friends and they don't know each other.
And it's
So
he's referencing the conversation, the fantasy conversation that they
Yeah.
had in their head earlier, and
Yeah.
he has no idea what he's talking about. But it's almost like he really believes that conversation took place.
Oh, completely, yeah.
I think that was the point where I was like, is this some weird thing where Marsha and Rita are the same person? The point that made me think there definitely weren't was because Jerry like is almost nice to Rita. Not nice
Yeah,
to
I
her,
think
but,
it's
when
'cause he
she's
knows,
standing on the stairs, he like puts his arm out and like brings her it towards the lounge. You would never do it if it was the
Yeah.
other girl.
Yeah, exactly.
But then
Um,
apart from that, he basically doesn't even look at her like the whole time. That's so.
Well, he
it was
barely
only on the
says
second
anything.
viewing. Yeah, he literally.
Yeah.
I actually love the fact that he basically doesn't have to say anything in that scene. He literally
Yeah.
stands there he just lets bloody
Well,
Rupert
it's-
talk
well,
forever.
Isn't that brilliant though? Because nearly every conversation that Rupert has with Jeff is like completely one-sided because he has it with himself.
Anyway. Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
conversation that he's actually having with Jerry, it's like he's like not he like can't even let him speak.
Well, it's like he's
And
practiced these
he-
conversations so much that when it actually gets to the conversation, he basically talks for both of them.
Well, he says that in the taxi not the taxi. He says that in the car at the start, doesn't he? He's like, "Oh, I've had this conversation so many times in my head." He's like,
Yeah,
did it always go
well,
like this? He's like, "Yeah, it did."
Jerry asked him, did it always turn out this way? And he said, yeah, as a matter of fact, it did.
Because that's the only conversation they have that actually goes the way he wants it to go.
Yeah.
Like
That's-
every
I-
other conversation.
Part of me thought that I was thinking earlier whether that conversation actually took place.
Oh, it definitely did.
So I don't want to be like everything in this film is fakery.
He woke
After I
up and
watched
it was
Taxi
all a dream.
Driver, I was just like feel like I was suddenly I was just looking for everything to not be real.
Well,
Yeah.
Scorsese, I think Scorsese said in the Criterion documentary
Oh
about
yeah.
it that basically he intended for the entire film to basically be fantasy, basically be the conception of fantasy, and that fantasy was more than reality, and that arguably none of it's real.
Yeah. Well, like
Essentially,
it's like what's the first thing that like you'd immediately think of when you think, oh, everything's gonna go the way I want it to be. My life's gonna go good from now on. Like it's this is like I'm gonna make the rules. You picture yourself as like a king. You're like
yeah,
I'm the king. I'm
yeah.
like a king of the world, and he is the like he refers to himself as the king, and it's just it's very sad. It's very depressing.
It is. It's like even though I was laughing at some moments that are just like outrageously ridiculous, it's like overall I was quite sad coming out of it.
Yeah, and
Like
it's
I
like
didn't feel good coming out of it.
you know when they're at Jerry's house, there's like a very there's a bit where there's like all the emphasis is on them. Rupert is looking at Jerry's like photos of him as a kid,
Yeah.
and he's obviously had a very happy upbringing. He's like
Yeah.
smiling in all the photos. They're all like very well presented in like nice frames,
They
like kind of like
literally
on display.
they hold the frame on that last picture as the one of like the first picture of him at high school, and he said that he shows it to everybody in class. They literally hold that frame for so long.
Yeah,
It's like De Niro's line ends, and I swear they don't cut for like 6 seconds or something. They
yeah,
say, making you stare at this. Yeah.
Sorry, in that scene where they're at Jerry's house, I absolutely love it when Rupert's like pushed out of the lounge essentially and into the hallway near the door.
yeah,
And Rupert's like framed in the like glass, one of the like glass panes in the door. And it's like Rupert's like looking through essentially the window at Jerry
yeah.
as Jerry's like shouting Hitler at him and stuff and trying to get him to leave. And it's like I just loved that
Yeah.
like that boundary placed on him as if he's like an onlooker, because the film basically starts with him looking through the car
I was
window.
gonna say this. The title sequence is it's like my
It's
favorite
nuts.
title sequence from Scorsese at least, if not one of my favorite ever. Because
It's like
it
that
literally is a
image,
freeze frame of him looking into Jerry's life
life.
of someone. It's like someone is like, well, Martha is like completely obsessed with him, giving Jerry like all this love and affection and wanting to be like with him all the time, and he's like everyone's going crazy behind him, it's all popping off, and he kind of slowly and calmly bends down, and this with a straight face just peeks through the window, even in between her fingers.
He's like peeking through her fingers
It's
like
amazing.
he's not meant to be looking. And I like the fact that Martha's hands are like up on the window, and it's like the darker reality that is not the fantasy of Jerry's
zombie-like.
life.
Yeah.
It's almost like a monster. It's great.
He reminds me of the girl's hands like on the television in Poltergeist with the blue light.
Yeah, it
'Cause
almost
you've got that blue light coming down on
it
De
almost
Niro.
feels like a TV screen.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like it's the light on De Niro in that moment. It's just so perfect.
Well, it's like
it holds it for the entire sequence
for quite a long time. Yeah,
It's
and
so
I feel like I
long.
never got bored either.
No,
yeah, I know.
whole
It's
title
the
sequence,
music choice is great,
I'm watching
and
it, and I'm totally engaged the whole
Yeah.
time.
but it's like because it's like a flash. It's literally like a split second, and that split second is like a it's like we know exactly what is going, like we know what we're in for at that moment. We're like
Yeah.
it perfect that like the shot exactly just sets up the entire next 2 hours
Oh, yeah,
better than the whole scene could have. It's great.
it summarizes the entire film
Yeah.
essentially. It's great. I love the fact that building on that, when you see the few shots of Jerry's like private life, and he's just like sadly drinking a whiskey at his dinner. And I just love this idea that his life is actually quite miserable and quite
Yeah.
stressful, and he's not happy. But this like idolization from Rupert makes him just like view everything becomes a fantasy. Even real things that he's viewing are being like
Distorted.
twisted,
Yeah.
and it's so intense.
I wouldn't hesitate to call this film in a lot of ways like I just the more I think about it, I think there isn't a single scene or shot in this film that's wasted at all. It's like I wouldn't call it a perfect film, but it's close to it in my opinion.
The pacing was really good.
And
It's
did you say the
I-
opening?
The pacing.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, the pacing was great. Yeah.
I thought the pacing was just so good. It just flowed. Everything flowed so well.
The moment I think the moment I noticed that the pacing was great was straight after this scene. It's straight after the scene we were just talking about at the like summer house.
Oh yeah.
It literally cuts straight to Robert De Niro as Magnum PI, and he's ready to kidnap Jerry. And there's no the thing
No
is,
fucking about.
there was no need for anything in between there. But most
Yeah.
filmmakers would have. It felt like there could have been many scenes in between those two scenes, and we just got.
When it first happened, it
And I
felt
It's
quite,
like so
And now-
I'm so ready to talk.
now it initially it felt crowbarred, but after I was very happy with it just going straight to that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that's exactly how it panned out in Rupert's head. He was like, if this doesn't work, next step, the next thing, the only thing he cares about from that point onward is okay, this is like plan B. Here we go. This doesn't work. This is what we're doing.
Because
It's like
there's a real. He could go to a few comedy clubs, do a few gigs. People like his act. The producer would have come down. He could have been on the Jerry Langford show in a month or
Yeah.
two in like a real and legitimate way. But that wasn't the second step for him. The fact that Jerry didn't instantly think he was a mega genius was it for him. Suddenly
That was
it's
the line.
I have to go and kidnap and force my way onto the show. That's the only next option.
Well, can we talk about
Jerry didn't love
how-
me, I'm going to force Jerry.
yeah. Well, can we talk about how absolutely amazing the fuck what are they called? The boards that he holds up. What are they called? Like
cue cards, yeah,
cue
they're
cards,
so
yeah.
good. They're so good.
the shot of him where it just says "I have a gun" was my profile picture on Letterboxd for a good long while.
I love when he just comes flying out of the car and the gun just like goes flying down.
He flings it down the street. He's such
And Jerry's just looking at him like, "Do I wait?" And it's like, Jerry, mate, a guy with a mustache and a fedora just came flying out of a taxi.
Also, how genius is it? It's such a genius gag on the writer's behalf that when Jerry phones up to ask for help, they just write him off as an impressionist. They're like, it's actually the impressionist that always.
Martino,
Yeah,
impressionist.
it's the impressionist that keeps on calling him as Jerry. Like how fucking hilarious is that?
And then De Niro's like, oh yeah, they treated me like that on the phone too, almost like he's going to convince Jerry that the big bad corporation is the bad guy and that Jerry's actually a good guy or something.
Yeah. But how do we we were talking about his suit earlier. How do we feel about his suit on the big night? Because I think I'm looking at it now and it's full of it's like circles, isn't it? It's full of little circles and they almost look like eyes. And it's quite literally like a kind of all eyes on me type situation.
It is literally all eyes on me. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now as well, and that is exactly what it is.
It's great, yeah. It's just the costume design and this I think there's not a aspect of this film that isn't like strong enough to be as good as the last, you know.
Good as
Everything
last.
is great. Like as good as the last bit.
Oh, so
Everything's
yeah.
as good as each other.
I was like, damn, there's
There's a
prequel
King
to
Claudia
the
prequel.
Joker prequel. That's crazy.
That was Taxi Driver. Yeah, what we didn't see of Travis Bickle was him trying to make it as a stand-up comic.
It does feel in a way like Scorsese and De Niro are trying to like kill the loner hero they created with Taxi Driver. It does feel like in some regards they feel a bit responsible for the creation of the loner hero, and in this they make the protagonist like quite unlikable.
Unlikable in this. See, I don't know. I think he's
I
very
don't think
likable.
he's
It's like his
unlikable.
whole like, even when he's doing bad things, when he's like talking to the FBI about how it's like, oh well, in that case Jerry's dead, and he's just
Yeah,
like he's
it's
very
like
like
he's
straight
quite
about it.
charismatic.
When he
Yeah,
meets, yeah, like when he meets new people, he still shakes their hand. He always goes for a handshake. He's always like, oh, like have a nice day, like nice to meet you. It's like um, he's so like fussed about being likable
yeah,
that he never his like manners never fall short, which is really
I
like
feel like
it's
that's
quite
what
sweet.
makes him very unlikable for me. Is that like obsession with his vanity?
Yeah, but it's like it's almost quite like not heartwarming, but it's like it's quite I don't know. It's so pathetic that you can't help but feel sorry for him. I don't know.
yeah. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I feel like, do you feel like if Rupert was, he could be the person he wants to be? It's like he has the ability to do it. I feel like when I see in these like fantasy scenes, yeah, I guess they're fantasy, but even his real performance, it's like he has the ability somewhat to do what he actually wants to do. It's
Yeah.
just
Well,
really,
do you not
it's
think that
mainly
maybe it's
his like his circumstances and like environment throughout his entire life has sort of led him to a point where he'll the person he's become can no longer achieve this. But
yeah.
it's almost like Jerry could have been the same as him. I feel like a lot of you've got to be like a narcissist and a bit of a sociopath to be like one of these
Yeah.
people anyway. So it's like
Yeah.
like now he's kind of pictured as this like crazed loner, but it's like but a few little things go different and he is Jerry Langford. Like I feel like I don't know. How do you
Well,
feel about
he
that?
he does achieve it. Like he achieves it, but like the very last shot is him
Yeah,
achieving
but
that,
then it's
isn't
like
it?
I don't know. Then it's the same as Taxi Driver in that like
Yeah,
I
it
don't
could
believe that
well,
all of those things actually occurred.
yeah,
You
exactly,
know.
yeah.
The way I initially saw that scene was I saw that he was initially in an orange suit, which basically
It's
you never
red, isn't it?
It's red.
know it's orange. Definitely orange. Because I remember looking at it and thinking, is this red? And then when it gets to the close up, it's like it's definitely orange. It's like prison jumpsuit orange.
Is it?
Oh,
And the
so
curtains
I
like iron bar like coloured.
let me
And
have a
it's
look.
100% it looks like he's in prison. We
Oh,
all look.
let's have a
I
look.
want to see this bad boy.
What's
Yeah,
it?
you're right.
You're right. It's kind of like
You-
bars. I do think
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
definitely. I
It
don't
looks
know.
like iron bars.
I do think the suit is red though.
I do think the suit is red though. Yeah. On
Yeah.
everything I'm looking at looks red. Oh, I've just seen
Yeah.
the Joker next to it, and the shade of red of the Joker's jacket is exactly the same, and that's really upset me.
Yeah. All right, are we ready to ready to get to the angry part of this podcast?
Let me look at my notes.
Yeah.
Joker.
The only things I've got left. The first thing I wrote down in my notes was I want to touch everyone's heads. I don't know about you guys. It's like everyone's
Alright.
head looks like it's made out of plastic, and I just want to touch it.
Because they're all sweaty.
I've written down. Oh, the guy who wants to sue everyone. Big props to him. Little shout out. He's like, I'm gonna sue, and then he's like, he's gonna sue his own client because he shouts it.
Yeah.
Great time.
Yeah.
And,
He's like, I'm a lawyer, I can do it, or whatever he
Yeah.
says.
And when the owner of the network's like, terrorists. What a great line it is.
I feel like I'm forgetting some big moment that we haven't talked about yet, but I feel like we've covered most of it.
We covered most of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's just okay. Let's all spend the next 10 seconds thinking. We can always edit this bit out, and let's just make sure we haven't forgotten anything special.
No, I've just got some stuff about. I love how quick the opening is. Like, I love that within like maybe 3 or 4 minutes, we know Jerry, we know Rupert, we know the stage is set. Like,
Yeah.
we know who he wants to be. We know what he wants to do. I love how quickly Like
the
everything is
the way we
so
find out
simple.
who Rupert is brilliant as well. So we find out his name from people like going, "Oh, hi, Jerry," like fuck, not Jerry, "Hi, Rupert." It's like he's a very regular at the back
Yeah,
door.
yeah,
It's like he is he's the embodiment of all of those people.
yeah. Yeah, because we were talking about that earlier, weren't we?
Yeah. And also going back to another thing, even though we keep on jumping back and forth, which isn't cool. But you know, we were talking about his wedding.
Very uncool. Yeah.
It's very uncool. Yeah, his wedding, as well as it being like obviously his surrealist imagination, but it's like that a wedding is meant to be like the happiest day of your life or whatever. So it's almost like he only thinks he can achieve like this happiness if it's like
If
because
it's
it's on
literally
TV,
the
isn't it?
Jerry
It's like
Langford show, because to
yeah,
me it doesn't even feel like it's less even about him being on TV, him being successful, him being a star. He wants to be on the Jerry Langford show, and that's it. And
yeah,
he wants to do that so much that he even would imagine, oh, where's the best place, the possible best situation that my wedding could be to the girl I love?
yeah.
And
It's
on the Jerry
literally
Langford show.
it's the only thing he associates with with his own happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's very very clever. And also, you know how we were talking about how like there could be a possible route, like different route of him actually doing it like the kind of orthodox way and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But he's obsessed with Jerry's personal approval. Do you
Yeah.
reckon that could be like a bit of a daddy issue? Because obviously he gets like abused by his dad, and
Yeah.
we only ever hear him talking to his mum. So I don't think he had a good relationship with either of his parents, but
Yeah.
definitely more so with his mum than his dad. And it's almost like he sees Jerry as like almost like a father figure because he found that he wanted to pursue comedy when he saw Jerry doing it and saw that Jerry was happy and successful and all this kind of stuff.
It's the validation that he's looking for, I think, from
Yeah, the social gratification, as it were. It's very like there's a very set theme to the entire film, and it just carries on building on it until at the very end. It's like it's not that hard to pick apart. It's like it's very obvious what this film is trying to say, but it like
Yeah.
does it so brilliantly in
I
like
think
every way.
These are the kind of films that make me, they just make me so happy because
Yeah.
just to the, I don't know, a lot of films try to do a lot and achieve a lot of it, but they miss their shot on a few things. But this
Yeah.
film really doesn't do that.
Yeah. I also think it's one of the only Scorsese films that's set in New York that doesn't like it doesn't feel like in New York. Does anyone feel that way? It's like New York is like not it's not relevant. It's and it's I thought that was quite nice.
he does just sit around and circle jerk New York.
Yeah.
And that's all you see is just more street lights, more New York.
It is a lot less
more
in this compared to Taxi Driver, though.
suits.
Oh, one
And
thing we haven't talked about. Oh, sorry. Finish.
I was just saying you barely see that in King of Comedy.
Yeah, you really
Mm.
do.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, we haven't talked about his bloody hands, mate. His bloody hands at the end. He's swinging his arms about like it's nobody's. His arms actually never come down to his side. They are always up in the air,
What, when he's
and it is
doing the performance?
when he's doing the performance.
Yeah,
It's
oh,
like
it's crazy.
it's
They're
so like
literally-
grand and it's crazy. His arms are always up in the air.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's like asking for a hug or like kind of
Even just like acceptance. He wants.
yeah, he wants them
he's
to
putting his hands up to all these people, this audience in front of him, and he wants to be embraced by them.
yeah. It's great.
He looks so different in this film to how he looks in Taxi Driver.
Yeah, I think that helps me. That helped me a lot to to disconnect the two.
Yeah, that was all the
So
Tash, big
incredibly
Tash
different.
action.
Also, just like a bit bigger, and that really helps.
Yeah. I really do think it's his best performance personally because like I think although his performance in Taxi Driver is like is iconic and ridiculously good as well as loads of his other stuff, I feel like it's so much harder to convey the kind of painful awkwardness in this to compare to the painful awkwardness in Taxi Driver because there's like there's a lot of parallels the two between like drawn out scenes that like don't need to be like as long as they are, or with like the interactions. So, you know that the big famous scene in Taxi Driver when the camera pans away from the phone call as if it's like
Yeah.
the camera's finished with that moment before Travis can even realizes that it's over.
Yeah.
It's like that is the conversations that he has with Jerry on the steps, just in a different format.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I compared that shot to the camera pulling away from him in front of the black and white crowd. To me, they basically felt like the exact same shot.
yeah, very similar. Yeah.
Well, I think the Taxi Driver one's more effective because the way it just like the camera just seems more interested in that like drab, empty hallway.
Yeah.
Than, like being on that pathetic tone of Travis anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just it felt much more human, and I think also because when I was seeing the King of Comedy scene where the camera's pulling away, all I could picture in my mind was just David Lynch like smoking cigarettes and chanting manic. So
Yeah. He was outside the set, like the shower and everything.
he's got his big megaphone, and he's like, "Can you cry?
Can you
more?
cry more, please?
Who cares how long a scene is?
Who cares how long?"
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, here we go. Joker.
I feel like I don't even have that much to say about Joker. I just want to put it out there that how funny it is that you can basically... I think you could cut like Taxi Driver and the King of Comedy together. Into a film that was like thematically and hit the same beats as the Joker. There's you can literally put this scene with this scene. I'd say it's about 70 King of Comedy, 30 Taxi Driver. But it's like, there's so many scenes that are like, oh, okay, I remember that scene in Joker. This is the same scene. And it happens for like every single scene. It's like when he gets beaten up in the alleyway by the kids, and it's like in Taxi Driver when the kids are like throwing the eggs at his car. It's like it's the same thing.
Also,
and when he stood outside and the red lights on him, and the guy walks past, and it's like slow.
Oh, brilliant! That's fucking amazing.
The exact same shot in Joker.
Yeah.
And I was sitting with my parents earlier at dinner, and we talked about it a little bit. And my dad said, "Yeah, but all films copy stuff from other films, which is
all art is theft, as they
literally."
say.
I remember my first day of uni doing film. My tutor literally said, "Copy and steal whatever the hell you want from anyone, because it don't matter." That is literally what my lecturer told me on my first day.
It's very true. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure my tutor at college said the exact same thing. He literally, we'd have like dedicated moments to walk around and look at everyone else's work just so we could take pieces from other people's work.
That's quite different. I feel like copying your peers in a classroom environment.
Well, not copying, but like he was very heavy on the idea that inspiration from other artists, like no matter who they are, student or
I actually think
established
that
artists.
Phillips was being a revolutionary, and actually he was making a meta film analysis where he was Rupert Pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
Jerry.
He was Richard
That's
Pumpkin.
actually what was occurring.
I don't know. I don't think Todd's got it in him. To be honest.
That was big simping for Marty.
Can I just point out?
Didn't Marty say that he hated Joker?
I don't know.
Marty
I feel
was
like
executive
he wouldn't have said
producer
that.
on Joker until like 2018 when he dropped out. So I've always, and then I've watched a couple of roundtables that have had him in where they've talked about whether Joker is like legit or not, whether it's just a throwaway superhero film or it's legit. And he always seems quite positive about it usually. Like Marty's not out here saying he's been ripped off.
No.
And I think that I imagine him having meetings with Todd Phillips where he was like, yeah, we're going to go sort of a King of Comedy Taxi Driver route with this character. And Marty was like, yeah, that sounds great. And Marty was like, yeah, he's going to bloody homage me. It's going to be wonderful.
I'm going to be homaged.
And then he got to the bloody movie theatre on opening day and he was like, bloody hell, I'm watching my own movie again. It's like he's already signed a contract with Todd and he can't chat shit about him anymore.
Yeah. But when he behind closed doors, Marty's definitely ripping into Todd. It's what I'm literally on Letterboxd right now looking at the most popular review is Todd Phillips is Rupert Pupkin, and that's it.
Yeah, I saw that one. That's pretty great. I agree with that.
I don't think Todd Phillips I don't think he's I don't know or I don't know. I don't think he's smart enough to do that in all honesty.
Me too. And to be honest, like when you look at everything else he's made, when the best thing on there is The Hangover,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I mean, you could maybe argue that War Dogs was better, but that wasn't a good film either.
Yeah. Yeah, the best thing about that was just probably Jonah Hill's laugh. That was it.
Just Jonah Hill being an absolute legend.
Not even that, just him laughing. That's it.
Did he do Due Date as well? For
Yeah.
God's sake,
So
he definitely
Yeah,
had,
of course he did.
doesn't he?
When you said Due Day, I thought you meant like it was like as in Jewish
No.
people. I was like, bloody
Oh,
hell.
you were like
No.
the World War II Holocaust film.
Yeah, it's
like-
Due Day.
No, oh no, it's my due day, and it's like the due day is the day when the Nazis finally come for you and take you from
Yeah.
Rome. Everyone gets given their own
Yes.
due date.
All right, we just got cancelled before we even
Right, we've
started.
been cancelled. We talked
That was
about Nazis.
cancellation material.
Damn it. No, it's not the first. We talked about Hitler earlier.
It's well, we quoted someone saying Hitler.
We quoted
Now we're
Jerry.
talking about starting a Jew Day.
Damn it. On episode 1, and we're already cancelled.
Yeah, epic. How long we been going for then?
Oh, an hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah, my battery's about to die on my laptop.
Oh dear.
Should we wrap this up?
Should we take a pause and then wrap this up?
Yeah, okay. Everyone pause.
Take a pause and wrap this up.
I'll wrap it up if you want. Do a bit of taking turns action.
Ollie's wrapping it up.
Okay.
I'll wrap it as well. I actually wrote this earlier.
Go on.
No, I'm
Go on.
joking.
Ready?
I wish I did.
Go. Right, Toby, put a fat beat down.
Quick, beatbox.
No.
I'm clapping. Okay. So
Did anyone see that great thing I shared on my Instagram the other day? And it was Julia Fox and Uncut Gems, and it was like, oh, did we just win? And then it was like the next scene was just in subtitles. It just says starts beatboxing and our hands over her mouth. It's actually hilarious. I love this so much.
Sounds epic.
But all right.
Well,
Anyway, yeah. On that note, thanks for listening, everyone. This has been the first episode of Screen 4, the podcast with the boys.
The podcast, the true podcast.
The podcast with the boys. I've been Ollie. George has been George. Toby's been Toby.
And Ollie's been Ollie.
I've been me. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be links to our letterboxes in the body description.
There'll be links to everything.
Yeah, including Mr. Scene, the Instagram. I'm joking. But yeah, that's it, I guess. That's
Cool.
that way.
Thanks everyone for listening, and
see you next week.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and convince these two to do Evil Dead, so we'll see if that happens.
Oh, I'm already convinced. I'm already convinced.
Well, it might be the Evil Dead trilogy. We'll see.
Bye.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
There we go.
Jerry, you're a prince.